Hush, 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 here comes the bogeyman. Tell him you've got soldiers in your bed, for he will never guess that they are only made of lead.
Hello. Welcome to the show. This is your lovely tech person who is only vaguely ever prepared for anything. So, we have another installment of Unfiltered Podcast tonight. We come to you live from Houston Media Source Studio B, and we are joined by some wonderful guests tonight. We'll see in a second. But first, for the random copy. So we go through this every time. Welcome to Studio B. So this is the latest in a series of podcast shows and training modules that we do at HMSTV to help train the community on media production and facilitate content creation for and by our community. So we'll also be doing another diversity and film meeting, which we do every month as well, towards the end of the month, second last or last Friday. And those center around all sorts of subjects in media. I mean, if you want to know editing, if you want to know script writing, if you want to know podcasting, we cover everything, really. Digitization was our last workshop, digitization as well as digital preservation. And some of these workshops we do live stream to either our Houston Media Source Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And one of these days, I will also make sure all the archive is backed up on the YouTube channel. Give me like another 20 years and I'll finish editing. So, yeah. And so, yeah, if you want to get involved with any of these free workshops we do with the community, or if you just have a great idea that you're like, hey, why doesn't this get covered in the community more? You can email me at melp@hmstv.org. That's MELP@hmstv.org. And I would love to hear from you and hear your opinions and also bring you into our coven. I promise we only sacrifice, pen dulce. So I'm going to shoot you over to Roger to give you a quick copy of what is our station.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to HMS Unfiltered Podcast. I'm Roger Palomino, like Mel said, the outreach director here at HMS. We're in Studio B, and you're probably wondering, what is HMS TV? Well, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's contracted to the city of Houston to provide free speech to all our communities. So we do this by operating a production studio facility that can accommodate almost any type of media content, including, but not limited to, net radio stations, podcasting, virtual studios, as well as a direct pipeline to broadcast cable TV. So if you want to know more about getting involved in supporting media education in our city, as well as how you can up your game as a creator, just visit our website, hmstv.org, and by emailing me at rpalomino@hmstv.org. Again, that's rpalomino@hmstv.org. So back to Mel for the PSA section.
Thank you so much, Roger. So our PSA section tonight will be we'll be giving you a shout out to El Beguiled. They're having their 26 years of El Beguiled Bakery birthday week, and tonight's the last night. They're having a birthday party over there right now, so hopefully you're there getting free tres leches. And yeah, I love this. They're a great community bakery. They do delicious stuff, so please give them a shout out on social media, engage with them. If you want to go to their site, that's the little first thing right there. And you can also see their little background here. They've been around since 98. So, give them a shout out. And then our next shout out tonight will be the Houston 48-Hour Film Project has a screening coming up at the Deluxe Theater on September 14th. And you can actually get tickets for that. They have their little Eventbrite page here. It's Space City 48-hour film project screening. The date's right there, Saturday, September 14th, 8 to 9:30. And then they're going to be, that's the address of the Deluxe Theater. So 48-hour film contest is a great organization that allows you to build film teams and compete against each other every year. You get a prompt, which is usually a genre or a couple of genres, and then you get a prop that you need to include as well as a line of dialogue. But essentially, you're writing a script, you're going out and filming, you're editing all within 48 hours, and then you have to submit. And the submission process is a lot easier than when I used to do it in school, because we had to literally drive in a mad dash at the end of editing, drop it off out of any proof. Now, thankfully, they allowed you to upload online. So, obviously that's still a mad dash some days, but it's a lot easier than it used to be. I think I remember jumping out of the car one time, tapping the roll and getting into the
I remember those days.
Yeah.
And next one is, we also have the Transgender Unity Banquet coming up on September 21st. They have a great lineup of speakers. They always have such a great diverse viewpoints and wonderful food. Someone on the Trans Foundation is now going to be one of their speakers, Alexis. She is just brilliant. I can't get enough of Alexis. She's also one of our board members, so I might be slightly biased. But check out the Trans Unity Banquet. They have a Facebook page, and then they also have a website where you can buy tickets. And then the next thing, and the last thing for right now, is going to be a film festival. Late this month, from the 26th to the 29th, is Dreamscape International Film Festival. It's their first year. They're going to be in Houston at Studio Movie Grill, and they have a very exciting film lineup. They do everything from animation to documentary to narrative, and they also have script contests. They're going to have some celebrity guests as well. We're hoping to do a podcast with them so that they can appropriately introduce themselves to the community. So yeah, take a look out for that coming up. Peruse their lineup. They have their little website here, and then I believe they also have a YouTube. But go to their homepage if you want to get tickets or find out more information about their film lineup. And with that, I'm going to shift back over to our wonderful host tonight, the incomparable Roger Palmett.
Thank you. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Mel, for that introduction. I wanted to introduce our guest for this podcast tonight. So our very first guest to my immediate right is Mr. John Faust, founding executive artistic director of Beguiled Theater Company. And he has a BFA in theater from Texas State University and MFA in creative writing, play, and script writing from Leslie University, and formerly the artistic director and co-founder of Weird City Theater in Austin, Texas. So we're going to be talking to him a little bit more about what he does and what he's doing and what he's working on here in Houston. We also have Alexa Perez, photographer, barista, co-media director of Houston Coffee Collective, also an artist, very interdisciplinary in the arts. And so she's going to be briefly with us to discuss a little bit about what she's working on as well. And then last but not least, we have Gian Cardenas, who works in digital preservation. So I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight for this podcast. And I wanted to start off with you, John. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am the artistic director of Beguiled Theater Company, and we're a new theater company here in Houston. We'll be producing our first show in 2025 in the spring, and it is a adaptation I wrote of Night of the Living Dead. We produced the show actually twice before, and I have published it, so it has also been produced by various high schools and community theaters actually all around the country, and even a theater company in Australia has produced it.
Wow.
So we're really excited for it. It's definitely a crowd pleaser. I have done some things to updated a little bit. If you're familiar with Night of the Living Dead, of course, the dead are coming back to life, but it's also about conflict between personalities and the police and the media.
Yeah.
And I have updated a lot of that because it's still very reflective of our own time. So we want to entertain, but also get people to think a little bit. So we're very excited for that. The other project I'm working on kind of outside of the theater company is, for those of you who are familiar with what a horror host is, I've been producing a show for now 12 years called Demented Features. And Demented Features is a show that is like an old creature feature show. This started back in the 1950s, and it still continues today with people like Elvira and Sven Gulli. And, you know, we show schlocky, horrible, usually public domain horror films, and there's usually some commentary and shenanigans, but we will continue Demented Features, and we're going to do 4 new episodes of that over October, hopefully right here at HMS. So
excellent.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. Yeah, especially for those horror fans out there that really, I mean, you strike a chord with Night of the Living Dead and people being familiar with that one famous line, "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
They're coming to get you, Barbara. One of my greatest moments. So Danvers, who is the horror host, this is my alter ego, will go out to several horror conventions, and I believe it was either in Austin or Houston or Dallas, who knows? It's one of the big 3. But I got to meet Russell Streiner, who was the original Johnny in Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, wow.
So if you go to our YouTube channel, Demented Features, there is a video of me and Russell Streiner going, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." And I was such a nerd about it. It was just, it was embarrassingly ridiculous, but it was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but like, if you're interested and, you know, want to check out what Beguiled Theater Company is doing, or Demented Features for that matter, you can go to beguiledtheater.com or dementedfeatures.com. 2 very different projects, but you know, they coexist together in the same universe.
all great fun.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for that, John. And,
Thank you.
I wanted to go now to Alexa Perez. So tell us, Alexa, a little bit about what you do, because I know you told me before starting everything that you're working on, and it sounds really interesting, especially with like the filmmaking portion of it. So yeah, let us know what you currently are working on. Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few things, but I'll just try to keep it short.
Sure.
As a photographer, we're always doing photo walks out throughout the season. So our next one at it'll be around the Cafe Buckingham. So it'll be around the Montrose area. And typically we'll post a flyer out on someone's Instagram, try to gather up a few photographers to host. And from there, we just gather community. Whoever wants to go out and shoot can come out and shoot, whether they shoot film or digital, anything. And even if they shoot videos, some people do come out just to like put content or to like make something. If you want to make something, you come out there and, you know, just build community that way. On that front, we have borderlines a few of my photographer friends into making a short film. So we'll be filming last on Labor Day, actually.
Yeah.
We hopped over to a cafe. We know the owner. We are like, can we please shoot it here at Labor Day? You know, we might not be sending the people and get off for it. It's actually just awesome, so go check it out.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and so that one's going to be submitted hopefully to the Houston Cinema Festival.
Arts Festival?
Yes, in November. We will be submitting that hopefully very soon.
Excellent.
Hopping over to cafes, I am the co-media director of the Houston Coffee Collective. If you don't know about Houston Coffee Collective, go follow the Instagram, go look at the website, because what we do is basically we put every cafe that we can in the Houston, greater Houston area onto a coffee map, and we highlight baristas, coffee roasters, any sort of like coffee enthusiast on that like front. That's the main goal of our organization, which is just putting it out there that, hey, there's good coffee in your area.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
And that's great information too, because I know with the film festivals, a lot of the artistic directors say, yeah, our directors and producers coming in from other cities for their films, they ask like, what are the places to eat here? What are the places to grab coffee? What if, you want to stay up late? And it's like, where do I go?
Exactly. And that's basically what we're there for. So yes, Coffee Map is very, very useful, very useful resource.
Oh, yes.
Other than that, that's pretty much it. I do own a coffee cart with my partner, so we do like catering events. So that is something that we also do, but that's not the thought part that I have. But keeping coffee to like
It exists in the same universe.
It's the same universe. Yeah, there you go.
connect.
Yeah.
But
Might inspire you to do another film about coffee. I don't know.
absolutely.
Attack of the Killer Coffee Cups. I don't know. Might be an idea. And then last but not least, we have Gian Cardenas. I know you're involved with like digital preservation. So tell us a little bit about your background. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I first got interested in this. I was telling her last time I was here during a training, complete church. My dad had a church, and he was a sort of amateur musician, but he had a lot of friends who were musicians. So I was always surrounded by the different sort of tech from the early 90s. I saw them transition to the discs in the early thousands. And the weird little floppy disk that had a mini disc inside
Oh, yes.
that discontinued or whatever in 2005 up to the MP3 stage and then where we are now. And when I went to college, I did anthropology. So a lot of that, crisscross a lot of ethnographic work. A lot of it is interviewing people one-on-one. But then comes the other part of what's the best way to capture that? Then you get into video ethnography, et cetera. All of that to say that in each and every stage, I realized how important it was to preserve culture, how important it was to collect culture, stories, folklore, and not only for preserving things, but also because academically, at least for me, you could kind of look back into that years later and be like, hey, they won some here that wasn't covered in history, wasn't covered in. If it's like something like movies, B-list movies are sort of making a comeback. Movies that no one's really heard about, obscure movies. Now that people are more, I think, open to foreign movies, things that would have gone unnoticed. Now you can go online, go to particular websites that they highlight them. Anyway, long story short, all that interests me. I'm trying to get the word out more now that I discovered this resource and made an attempt to become familiar with facilities and add workings because I want to get more people out here. I mean, I still hang out with a lot of anthropology majors or peers of mine. A lot of them I know that this would be something they'd be interested in. They just don't have that, I guess, fire in the belly to seek it out. So I feel like if I inspire them and show them what can be done, maybe we can get something going with, different student organizations, alumni organizations. I mean, I discovered her through Instagram around the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Because she would start with like coffee.
Right.
Since I moved in this area, there's so many good coffee shops.
It's desperately needed.
And
Yes.
you know what? You need to highlight all these little bits and crannies that Houston doesn't, showcase to tourists.
Right.
I heard you're from Austin, I'm guessing.
I've lived in Austin.
Okay.
I'm from everywhere, but
Yes. And I grew up in Huntsville.
okay.
That's where I went to school. Yeah.
They kind of showcase what they have, and I think they do a better job at showing people, hey, come visit these spots. For Houston, it's more, you got to know what you're looking for in order to find it. There's something for everyone.
Right.
For instance, I told her, hey, there's something here I think you should check out.
Yeah.
And I think for the people that you reached out to, for the things that you have going on, I think we could start reeling some of them in and just start making it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that because we've had those discussions before, like with Mel on the staff and other community producers, the importance of why we exist, as a public access station. A lot of people that aren't familiar practicing and having people exercise their free speech, the First Amendment rights, not having any limitations to the content they put out there, and it's not owned by us or anybody else, really. So this gives you a unique opportunity to archive something like you were saying, because we have had producers come in and say, yeah, I recorded this video back in LA in 1989 and, you know, I have it on an actual cassette. So how am I going to, you know, I want to digitize it. How do I go about doing that? And so we do have resources here that might help with that as well. But yeah, on that note, I do want to ask John, because you were mentioning earlier that you're from everywhere and you used to live in Austin. So now that you're in Houston, how does, I guess, the art scene compare in Houston with Austin? Like, what are similarities? What are differences?
Well, I moved here right before the pandemic hit. So, I mean, literally, I think we got here in February and then everything shut down in March. So I'm still getting to know the area, but what I'm initially seeing is that there are a lot more resources here.
Yeah.
You know, Austin, I don't want to speak ill of Austin because it's a beloved city, but I have seen the theater scene struggle there. A lot of theater companies, especially, you know, our theater company, we rented venue space per show. We did not have a permanent place to, you know, go play. And a lot of other theater companies are in the same boat. So they would, a lot of the venues that they relied upon were closing down. They became unaffordable. You know, again, I don't want to speak too quickly because I'm still feeling things out here. But it seems to be that there's a lot more opportunity to perform here. And it's not just traditional, you know, proscenium theater stages either. There's bars and there's, you know, warehouses and, like in Chicago, I want to say almost like there's storefront theaters and so forth. And there's just, it just seems like there's a lot more versatility and an embracing of just the arts community in general. There's a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of film in Austin too, but there's just a lot of passion here, and I love that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about this city too that's really interesting. Like, all of us know that historically the city is known predominantly for oil and gas.
Yeah.
Also for shipping, right? You know, with Galveston, also for the medical industry. So really with the art scene, we've seen that come and go in waves, you know, as far as like trends going up, trends going down. But I would say, like you said, the strength is the creativity and the energy of the city that Houston is. But then also, I think now what it boils down to is just finding maybe a couple of central locations that really piece everything together. Kind of like what John was saying earlier, just having everything archived and just finding one, maybe not one location, but a central location where everything is accessible. Like, how do I find out about restaurants? How do I find out about independent movie theaters or anything that might interest you as an artist? So that brings me to you, John, because I know you grew up with all these changes in technology. And I wanted to ask you, what have been some of your challenges as far as like finding resources in Houston, as far as like getting enough of a particular content archived and saved for you?
Some challenges, it's hard to say because I was homeschooled. So I didn't know, when I went to community college, I didn't know anything that was accessible to me. Now, I do got to preface this by saying it took me 8 years to get to my degree. So from 2008 2016, there was a lot of change in how media was, how you use media. We go from 2008, which is everyone here knows what YouTube is.
Right.
Here in this MySpace days, Facebook getting introduced to 2016, where it's like the algorithms are feeding you what they think you want to see.
Yeah.
That's a huge change.
Yeah.
So for me, I was just very attentive to the newspaper. In 08, 09, Houston Press. I would look at all the things they had to, that they were showcasing, saying, hey, go to, what did we have here? Fitzgerald's.
Yes.
Check this out. Go to Mazatec Garden, which was an obscure little apothecary in near Montrose. And then from there, I would just pick up flyers based on the artwork that I liked. And then just start following organizations like Houston Media Source, and then a few others that didn't make it along the years. But I guess the challenge as far as archiving, for me, simply was getting it done. That's it. Because I had so many ideas. In these past months, I've been compiling all things that I had written for ideas. And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting on this for years. I'm 34. probably live half of my projected life. I need to do something, at least one project, just to prove it to myself. So I guess the hardest thing is getting it done, because I tell some people, there's stuff out there. You just got to look. So.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that there really needs to be something created where we can find everything in one spot. I don't know if that's in the form of a website, a publication. I don't know, but there's something that is sought after by not just Houstonians, even people coming in from outside. Yeah. There was a recent publication that I read that talked about that Houston didn't have a very visible film scene from what they could tell, but I think it also has to do with how accessible is that information to you, because many times I myself even stumble upon film festivals and I'm like, I didn't even know this film festival was running. It's been running 5 years. It's like, how do I not know about it? And it's because maybe they're trying their best to promote it, but it's like, other than the traditional internet or maybe Facebook, how else can they promote that? So I want to segue into what John was discussing earlier as far as his project. So tell us about your upcoming projects.
Well, I want to say one thing. Sure. How much I respect what you do. Because so a lot of my career is a writer, so I'm a playwright, screenwriter, and looking at old folk tales and looking at the anthropology and the museums, and one thing I love about especially independent horror films is they're kind of a snapshot of their time. So you see an unfiltered version of what 1970s style and life and so forth was. So anyway, for whatever it's worth, I wanted to say how much I respect what you do, because just as a writer and a producer of art, I go to things that you archive and preserve for all of us all the time. So you're a huge part of the creative process. What was the question? What am I doing?
Oh, yeah. Your upcoming projects. I know you're working on various.
So I am working on various things. So right now, my main focus is trying to get Beguiled Theater Company off the ground. So we're, going through the whole grant thing and the fundraising thing. And, we're getting organized and we're taking our time to make sure that we're producing the best quality show next spring that we possibly can.
Right.
And anyone who's ever done film or theater or a school play, whatever it is, there's a lot of moving parts. And right now, being the artistic director, I'm kind of handling everything. And as we get closer to production time, there'll be a little bit more help. But I'm kind of in the trenches, just making sure everything has a solid foundation for what's coming next. So that's kind of the big project. I'm also writing quite a bit. I'm revising Night of the Living Dead, as I said. I'm also working on a couple of other projects. I have a screenplay I'm working on, and then another full-length play I'm working on. So I can't just do one thing. I have to have my hand.
Or you're a creative. I mean,
I'm a creative.
That goes with the territory. You want to be involved in so many different things as much as possible.
Yeah. It's a really interesting. I've discovered my writing process is. Maybe I'm not bizarre, but I think I'm bizarre. It's like, you work on something for a couple of days or a week or even a month. And there comes times where I'm like, okay, I've just got to walk away from this. And then I'm like, we'll switch gears and let's work on this other thing for a minute. And you just completely divorce yourself of this other work for a little bit, clean out the cobwebs, clean out the frustration, work on this other thing. And then you go back and forth. And for whatever reason, that's very fulfilling for me. And it helps me change gears so that I don't get stagnant or frustrated so much on one certain project.
Well, and I've heard that advice before too, that I always used to practice is like if you think about something or problem or an issue or even writing right before you go to sleep, then when you wake up in the morning, you'll have the answer because you send the query off to the data bank. And it's your intuition that, some of us are better than others at being able to contact that intuition, but then you do have to have these moments where you're like, okay, I need to just set this aside because the back of my brain will be thinking about this, but I gotta get other stuff done. And it's like the watched kettle never boils.
Yeah.
So you got to send it off and it'll come back to you. But
and there are times I'm like, hey, universe, just let,
help.
I need an idea here. I need something. And then, a week will go by and then one morning I'll wake up and go, oh my God, here it is. And I go and just type. So,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So how about for you, John? What upcoming projects do you have happening, if any?
I mean, no official upcoming stuff. I don't have anyone like demanding deadlines from me. That's something I that's something I kind of try to work on myself. Saying they finished one thing, so I'm trying to think. Okay, so yeah, actually, right now, what I've been wanting to do, and kind of ties into college again. I like sports. I like college sports. When I was at U of H, final 3-4 years, I tried to learn this with Coutini on the Center for Student Media, and I got to learn a bit. And I want to do something similar to what Lexa was doing, coffee, but instead, view it from a point of view of, hey, this is Houston. These are all the cool places I think you should visit, from coffee shops to restaurants to Portuguese stores. But my audience would be all the Big 12 schools outside of Houston. So I don't know if y'all know, but Houston moved up to the Power Conference, a good conference in football. A lot of them are all across the nation. I mean, they're not necessarily in Texas. So when they come here, they're like, what do I do in this big old city?
Right.
It's highway.
how do I drive?
Yeah.
Hey, you're in University of Houston, right across from the freeway. We have East End. Here you have the media culture. You have all these other places. Check them out. So you have the office, the kind of foods. It's a huge artistic scene right now. Here, I feel like check out the different variety of art they have to show. I guess that's the project that I want to get done and at least prove to myself that I can get something out and publish it.
Yeah, no, that's excellent too, because, we were talking about also earlier, just finding the time. And sometimes you're like, I'm stuck. What do? I just need to walk away from it. But yeah, and also the interesting thing about this medium is that it doesn't matter when you start or how long it takes you, because, I mean, artists come in all ages, shapes, sizes, genders, whatever. Yes. So there is no, because, and I know this because I've gone through it myself as an artist. I say, if I wait until this date, this is going to be the perfect time, but there is no perfect time. You just have to do it. I mean, you have to find something to motivate you and say, no, I just need to do it now. I was going to do it, but now I just need to start, because the thing is, I need to get the ball rolling. And like you said, time passes by. I just want to make sure I do it while I can now, and it's fresh in my mind. And so, you find those elements to help you, motivate you.
Yeah, and a sobering thought I always keep in mind is that, like you mentioned earlier, you're like halfway through the lifespan. It's like a human has so many thoughts, so many stories that your whole lifetime you will probably barely be able to output like less than a quarter of everything that's inside you.
Right.
So it's like, don't put it off. Like, have your voice, even if you just speak it out on the radio or do a podcast or, just do YouTube videos, host horror, just get those things out there, get your voice and your stories out there, because, we have a finite amount of time on this coil. So, we're running through the coil, and you just need to get started. It's never going to be perfect, like you say, but you can refine yourself over time. The real thing is the passion each of us bring to what we do. And if you are passionate enough, you will draw other people in too who are just as passionate. and they will want to share and contribute their voice. And so finally you get to a point where you actually have this patchwork quilt of all these personalities and ideas that, I don't know if there's an afterlife, but I'd like to believe that all these ideas are somewhere in the cosmos that get patched together, good, bad, indifferent, spooky.
Yeah. Right. Spooky has to be in there.
Touch on two things that popped up in my head with what you're saying. I recently read somewhere that a whole bunch of years worth of media for MTV artists, writers, whatever, has got deleted forever. So,
God.
Audiences and critiques of upcoming artists, I think since the mid-90s to early 2000s, just
wow.
Like, man, that sucks because there's so many undiscovered artists or artists who never made it. Maybe a lineup, maybe the bassist, he would even have potential to stop or whatever. All that was lost. And then the artists, or I should say the writers, that was their work. If they Googled themselves or their children or grandchildren try to Google that work, it's no longer.
Yeah.
And the second point was inspiring others. I think that's a good way to keep it going.
Yeah.
Something that we touch on a lot in anthropology. And oddly enough, I'm starting to see it in corporate workplace.
Oh, yeah.
Is instilling culture. So if we're able to reach out to a younger audience, people who are interested in this but don't quite see the full picture, like maybe some of us a little bit older do, we can get them started early, get the role, and then they do the same with those following. Go into archiving and hopefully make it better with all the technology that keeps getting.
Yeah, right.
And to put to that, because you guys have kind of outlined how y'all's art overlaps, is like, this has always been an obsession for me, is historical preservation, archiving, horror, storytelling. There's a big section of horror that's folklore, which is essentially mythology and urban legends and things like that that inform storytelling. And those, to me, are a huge intersection of what we all do here, because it's a way of passing on traditions, legacies, cultural history, but doing it within the medium of entertainment. And let's face it, most mythology started off as cautionary tales because that was elders trying to pass off to the youngers, whatever you call yourselves these days. I'm old now. But that was their way of passing on, like, this is what we had to go through. This is the hardships. These are the world wars. These are the famines. These are the, plagues and everything we had to go through. And this is what we learned from this, learn from our history and carry on. And hopefully if you ever have to go through these things in your lifetime or your children's lifetime, they will have at least a basis of knowledge to go from. I mean, to me, horror and those sorts of things are the continuation of that, is we're trying to address, just like sci-fi as well, things that are in our current reality, but also reference things from our past, reference potentials in our future. These are what drives stories, and all that comes from history and documenting and archiving, because we wouldn't have that without it.
Yeah.
So, it's all these intersections that are fascinating. So, we need to pass on the passion and the knowledge, media education, to everyone of, how do I do this? How do I get started? How do I archive my family history? Do you have a cell phone? You haven't have to record.
I have a question about just archival in general. So when you archive something, especially digitally, it's not forever. You have a finite period. What would you say is a stronger medium for archiving than X, Y, or Z? Like,
I think that's something academia, especially anthropology, hasn't really asked themselves. Because when we would archive things, for instance, something a little more academically oriented, which was research was the folklore here at the English department at UMH, they just archived it in a database. But as I've been learning outside, I've been learning with Mel, that is corruptible. Like it could just cease to exist one day. Lose all that. So,
well, talking about MTV losing half a decade of stuff, we've all lost probably hard drives and
Yeah.
things, and it's just, it's terrifying because you have all this work or writing or video or podcast or whatever that you have, and like in an instant that can just go away.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I'm going to nerd out here.
please. And I know there's redundancy in things, but
So there is,
I haven't ever done any of that.
if you get into the realm of digital preservation, that's what they're calling it now, and that is developing a best practices workflow for organizations or individuals getting into preservation. And so there's actually even a handbook online, and I'm going to share with you right now. So this goes over a lot of international standards, as well as workflows that a lot of our academic areas, as well as, national archives, colleges, all sorts of things. It's about developing a process so that even as your organization and or your individuals are starting to get into this, not everything's perfect, doing something's better than doing nothing. But if you develop a workflow to where, one, you can archive this, have backups, redundancies, but also have a process to where these will be accessible beyond the lifetime of you and your organization. That's what it's about, is trying to develop a workflow so that we are thinking of, historical preservation beyond our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of the thought process is starting to go into now, because we've transitioned from analog to digital. There's a lot more discussion of how we do this in the digital realm. But for me, and this is true for horror movie production too, I always like
I love how it always goes back to horror movies.
Yeah.
but I like a mix of practical and, digital. So I like, if you will, analog and digital,
Yeah.
right? So in horror movies, that would be practical special effects you do in camera, and then things you do in a computer program that you insert in post.
When you fix it in post.
Combining those elements. And really, it is the safest way to work a lot of times, is you have physical backups of what your archives are, whether you put them on Blu-ray disc or whether you put them on VHS tape. Or
Mm-hmm.
we as a station have a lot of old mini DV beta tapes in the archives, quarter-inch tape that
Mhm.
we will bring in and transfer to make a digital version we can stick out on YouTube or put on TV again and get back into rotation. I also haunt a lot of the copyright.
Oh my God, don't get me started on copyright.
Free domain sites. So there's a lot of free domain activists out there.
Yeah.
And their big thing is what you were discussing about with MTV and everything, because the copyright laws have changed so much from yesteryear to mid-grade to today. For a long time, they had changed the copyright laws so that companies could kind of infinitely own a copyright of creative content. And we're not even talking about the creators. We're talking about a company that had bought the rights from the creator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So think about things like, Matt, Diana's.
Matt, can I interject here? I know
Sure.
this is an open
Yeah,
forum,
yeah.
so I'm going to be open.
Sure.
So let's go back to my my horror host
Yeah.
Mhm.
thing,
Yes.
shtick. So I'm friends with a lot of the horror hosts around the country, and we all have the same issue. So our bread and butter is public domain material.
Mhm.
We showcase public domain films usually, and so the laws regarding that are horrendous.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty famous, like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Has its own thing about being copyright free, and that's why I was able to do that. But there are a ton of movies out there. But what we come across is we'll upload our thing to YouTube, and everybody's shaking their head. So everybody knows what I'm about to say.
Yes.
And they will, I'm trying to censor myself. Some person or company out there will throw a copyright strike on your channel because
Yes.
no, we own that. It's like, no, it is a public domain film.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge proponent of the public domain.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important. I think it is ridiculous that things are, copywritten indefinitely. It's insane. I absolutely think a creator should have their copyright at least for their lifetime.
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where it's like, give me a break. Like the whole thing over Sherlock Holmes and those people.
Yeah.
And I talked to that lady. Don't even get me started. But anyway,
Spill the tea.
well, I wanted to write an adaptation when we were doing Weird City Theater in Austin of Hound of the Baskervilles. And it was still under copyright. This is right before the big lawsuit, and they finally said Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain, go screw off. But I talked to them and I said, and she was lovely. She's like, oh, come out to Vermont and come to my chateau or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm like, I want to write this adaptation. I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes nerd, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
But she's like, sure. And so, maybe a month or two later, their lawyers write to me and say, okay, you've got permission to do this, but it's going to be, 30% of your box office and pay this fee and this thing. I'm like, I might as well go to Samuel French and just, do the damn thing. I mean, And of course, now that it's in the public domain, that's kind of on the back burner. Just out of spite, I'm going to write something. But anyway, I think that at some point, this is all going to come to a head sooner or later. And our wonderful Supreme Court is going to have to come to some concession if they're not paid off by Disney again and say that they've got to do something about the copyright law in this country.
Yeah. Well, it used to be, like you said, lifetime of the artist plus 75 years. And then they had changed that for a while. And during that time, there's a great article online. I'll see if I can link to it in the post later. But they kind of went over that you had like a good few years where a bunch of things that would have gone into the public domain.
It was during the Clinton era, and Sonny Bono came in and screwed everything up. So because he was a senator, it's the Sonny Bono law or something. So, am I boiling? I'm
No, I don't blame you.
But frustration.
But on top of that, YouTube makes it worse because they give free reign to anyone who says, we are claiming this public domain film as part of our library, and then
there's companies and other entities that create these algorithms that literally all it does is scrape the internet, particularly YouTube, to find something that is like they can claim as copyright or something. So it's almost an automatic process at this point, which is terrible because then that puts the onus of like proving that it's not onto the creator instead of like, well, prove that I've done something wrong. No, it's like, no, you have to prove your innocence. So it's backwards from our legal system.
But this all goes back to archiving and like preserving things. But it's like, some corporation or an individual or a Disney holds on to, and by the way, Disney got started by using public domain material. Anyway,
that's right.
How
ironic. The Grimm's fairy tale, things like that. I mean, they started. Everyone.
I had so much fun at Disneyland, though. It was so much fun. Anyway,
we love them.
We love them. We hate them.
It's a love-hate relationship.
But it's just you have to be able, the public, for education, for cultural preservation,
for cultural
development, so people don't just sit around and are stupid. I just think things need to be accessible. And again, I'm not saying that an artist shouldn't profit off of their work, but
but you shouldn't have companies that come in here acting like they have the right to an individual,
right? And
then having lifetime say over our cultural traditions and histories, because that leads to the issue of those things will disappear. They will be erased. And that's exactly what happened when they changed the laws. There were several years of things that went into, that would have gone into public domain that didn't ever get to go into it. So those things were lost. Artists, maybe their only known work were just gone for years. And, we live in a corporate capitalist society. We benefit from a lot of the things from it. But I always say the reason why public access is separate to that is because we were created to be here for the people. We are the product of the federal government saying to capitalism, you taken away from people and you need to give them something back.
Yeah.
And access to media was that response. And so you have to maintain things like public libraries. You have to maintain things like this because unless the public has some right to the media that they consume and can create their own, you will have an issue where everyone will gatekeep our culture, our history, our identity. And you don't have any individual with
and
it.
then they'll weaponize it.
And then they'll weaponize it.
That's right.
Textbook.
Yeah.
Go vote, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's right. We have one election.
No, I sure do.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but I
No.
think it's incredibly important.
Those are important discussions
So-
that we have all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why, like Mel was saying, why we exist. This is an opportunity for everyone to really archive their work,
Right.
to also have an opportunity to exercise their free speech, to be artists. And that's one thing I'm very, passionate about too. And I tell Mel and a lot of my coworkers is that pay your artists what they're worth,
Yes.
because it is a profession.
Pay your archivist.
Yeah. If your families enjoy the art and they have the right to enjoy it, the artists also have the right to get paid and pay their bills.
Well, and because we pay corporations, we pay people for streaming all the time, and that's
taxpayers.
corporations. Exactly. But how much of the time are you arguing as an artist, as an academic, of like, oh, well, I should be funded because this is important to the community. I'm trying to do real work here. But you always have to justify that. Whereas, when's the last time AT&T had to justify it? They just get
Right. Or energy companies.
energy.
Or
Yeah.
pharmaceutical companies.
Right. Big pharma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That'll
mean,
be another podcast.
that's why I'm over here poking the bear.
But you just reminded me of something too, like in our discussion. Well, not that specifically, but talking about horror, right? Going back to horror and Night of the Living Dead, we had discussions too about.
I'm glad I had this influence
casting.
on everybody.
Yeah, it's like casting with the characters, because those characters from the original 1968 George Romero, The Night of the Living Dead, are so memorable. How important, I guess, for you as an artist, is it to cast diversity for something like Night of the Living Dead?
Oh my God. So, I think Beguiled Theater Company's entire mission is for diversity, using technology to reach people, so that diversity can have a platform but be visible. I think visibility is incredibly important, and so I'm in my imagination. Of course, we haven't cast the show yet, but in my hopes and dreams and goals, that we're going to have non-binary actors, and we're going to have we're going to switch up some genders and things. So Night was a product of its time. And a very good one, actually, because it broke the mold on a couple of things and really helped the civil rights movement push forward, I believe.
Right.
And it's an incredibly culturally important film.
It definitely hit at
It absolutely hit there.
remember
So-
Romero saying that he had a copy.
I was about to say the exact same. Russell Streiner and George Romero were on their way to New York City with the work print, and that's when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. They heard it on the radio. And I've incorporated that moment actually sort of into my story.
Oh,
But I talked a little bit about like the media and how the media is feeding us some disinformation sometimes, depending on who you talk to, what their political views are, and it can come from both sides here. But I have put that in the story because you have this phenomenon going on, and how is the media handling that?
Yeah.
How are people receptive to it? And throwing the zombie thing aside, it's a story about survival with people you don't get along with.
Yeah.
And or that might that might have political or racial differences than you.
Yeah.
So it's like you're putting them in this bubble, and it's like,
The powder.
go,
Yeah.
let's see what's happening.
Right.
So I went off on another tangent. I don't even remember what the question was, but I want to diversify my cast. I think that there's brilliant talent out there.
Yeah.
And if we continue to say, we're just going to cast in a traditional sense of, these white people and then the one black person, and, from a storytelling perspective, you still have to honor some of that because it's part of the story.
Yeah.
That racial tension is part of the story. But that doesn't mean that I can't play with things a little bit.
Right.
George Romero even said he cast Dwayne Jones, who played Ben, the black guy, in because he was the best actor for the role. It was originally written as a white character. And I feel the same way. Let's bring in the best actors,
Some of the best media we have, like Alien,
right.
And everything, was because originally these scripts were written for, not a very diverse idea, but then the person came in and they blew them away, and they were like, you know what, I can see this person in that role. Just be open to that.
Right.
Really what I would love to see,
Right.
because, and that's part of, I've started writing scripts with a very non-binary bent. So I try not to gender any of my characters when I write them, and I try and let them tell me, okay, what do you identify as? What are you going toward?
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, because I got influenced by working with the Heats and Intersex Society and the Trans Foundation, when I started doing that, I realized how much I imposed my ideas and the ideas that I grew up with gender and masculine and feminine and all these things onto characters. And I was like, you know what? This is actually very freeing as a creator to not see that, because then you could just make a character who has this kind of mentality or add this kind of background, or add a little bit of mix. It's like cooking. You add a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
You get out, and what is it baked into being?
Right.
It's instinctive.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and actually I've gotten into casting too, and that's one thing I enjoy, like what Mel was saying, is I go for like the energy of the performers.
Yeah.
I really go for like, are they convincing me of this role? Because all it is lines on paper, but it's really up to that performer to really convince you that that is not just, a character name or lines on paper, but the person in front of you is that person.
Yeah.
That they give you so much from their inner self.
Sometimes with certain stories too, it can give you a whole new appreciation from, like, I worked with another theater troupe, Zoom Shakespeare Productions, who did a non-binary version of Macbeth. And so they cast a local black female talent to play Macbeth.
Yeah.
And then they had someone else who's a non-binary talent to play Lady Macbeth and everything. And just the way they did their dynamic, I finally saw it as a love story, because I had never seen it that way before. It was, to me, always like a power play or other thing.
And I think that's a really good point, because we get stuck in, there's only one way to do something.
Yeah.
And it's interpreted. One of my mentors in my MFA program, we talk about how we're kind of hardwired almost at this point with Socrates, and how he wants to lay out a story, and you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And, with Macbeth or Shakespeare in general, or Ibsen, or whoever, whatever the important playwrights, it's, I've got another story I'm going to tell. So, but we're told that there's only one way to do it. And I think that is absolute. So I think it's important, especially theater. Because I mean, I get it. Film is expensive and but like theater is experimental.
Yeah,
Yes.
very much so.
It doesn't have to be pretentious out there, ladies and gentlemen. No.
Right.
But it's a place where you can bring in talent that doesn't necessarily go with that. It has to be done this way.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we try it this way? Why don't we cast a great big beautiful black lesbian woman in Night of the Living Dead instead of just what I want to do out there if you want to come audition for me.
Yeah.
I cannot remember his name to save my life, but he is a Houston native and he graduated from the same program at Leslie University I did. But we were doing, we have a residency where we go in and do these workshops and these intensives. And he was one of our guest speakers. God, I can't remember his name. But anyway, we were discussing Waiting for Godot. And I hated that play. I hated it. But he came across with a really wonderful point. He's like, the reason why people hate it is because it's taught that you have to do it this way. And it's this important work. It's important. He's like, no, it's not. It's clowns. It's stupid. It's fart jokes. And by saying something like that, I started crying because it's so freeing. Because I went through the typical traditional actors conservatory and, their, the trauma and all of that crap that goes with that.
Until you're not.
I mean, basically, yeah. But like, going into this MFA program, it's very freeing because they're like, because you go in and go, oh God, I'm gonna have to toe the line and follow the rules, and they're like, no, you go right, gay Dracula. You go right, Night of the Living Dead, or
Go gaily
forward, or analyze, your relationship with your father in a full-length play. Which,
That's never happened in film.
spoiler alert, that's coming soon. That's gonna be that'll be a light one. But anyway, it's just I have had the pleasure of having mentors out there that have been like, let's take the chains off of you. You have been hardwired into this. Let's reprogram. And then I want to do the same thing for other people with my theater company. I want that diversity. I want people to come play. That's what it is. It's a play. I love my theater people. I do. But some of y'all take yourselves way too seriously. And if I can say, show up, do the work, be prepared, and don't let other people down. But when you're there, let's have fun and let's, do something.
Artists.
Right.
It's just, it is not brain surgery. It's not politics. It's not that big of a deal. It's not so important.
Yeah. Have a little irreverence. But that's also what
have I taken over your show? I'm
not at
absolutely
all.
sorry.
Just a brain.
He's over there like doing a crossword puzzle.
Appreciate the insanity.
Yeah. True art. Yeah.
I mean, to bring it back around too is like, I love that in modern horror genre, now they have very socially conscious horror. So now you will see productions like, Fear Street on Netflix or whatever, where your main protagonists are BIPOC, are queer, and they're the ones who live. They're the ones who survive. And they're also talking about stories that it's like, oh, hey, guess what? The history you've been taught isn't necessarily the history that is actually factually true.
Right.
And that comes from historical preservation, community archives.
Yeah.
Because we've been told one thing via our textbooks, but the truth is actually people who were there throughout their family lines and witnessed these things and got to document it in their own communities, indigenous populations, other people who can come forward now and finally have a voice and say, you know what, all these things we've been taught to be so sacrosanct and so important to preserve in their precise state are not actually true.
Right.
Yeah.
They're different perspectives. Like we covered a historical discussion at U of H downtown. There's this society in town, San Jacinto Historical Society, and we covered their stuff for many years, but they did a section on the Texas Revolution. And so they had academics from Mexico. They had academics from Texas. They had academics talking about the Anglo experience, the Mexican experience, the slave community experience of that time, the cotton industry and everything, how all of these interesting things plugged into this one event in history that has created something to where we're now here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was, shall we say, I mean, cover your ears, kids, it was a clusterfuck. So it's not,
Of course it was.
Yeah.
But that's humanity for you.
Mm-hmm.
You had people in there who were soldiers from other areas who thought they were fighting in something that was valuable or that would better their reputations because they had made mistakes in life. But then they found out that, you know what, this was just a bunch of different financial interests and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some people who had good intentions. There was a lot of people who just wanted money, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of like the discussion I had with you, like in grade school. When I was in grade school, yeah, there was one particular history class. Yeah, so I'm going to discuss the trauma, and this is, public school in Texas. So there was a history class that did have the history to where it's watered down and told from one specific perspective to where a certain group looks like, oh, they're perfect, they're the heroes, and everybody else is just, mindless, right? But I think that's what I've discovered as I get older and do my own research and being in places like this and working with other artists, is that you find out the real history when people tell you this is what actually happened. And we also have documentation, we have archival proof of a lot of these things that we're telling you. So it's not just us telling you this history that's revision, but we also have evidence of it too.
Well, because now we're finally going to communities that never got to have a voice in it.
That's right.
And that's the great thing of not being so careful and precious with your history, with your literature, with your traditions, is that then you can actually really think about it in an academic way and look at all the sides and be like, you know what, maybe we're just interpreting this one set of data when we could go here and see a different side of it. Because, history is always going to be through the lens of some subjective perspective.
Right.
But if you get like a multitude of perspectives on that versus just one side, then maybe you get a little bit closer to what factually may have actually happened, or at least a fuller, more three-dimensional worldview than you had before. And that translates to our stories, to our horror, to our mythologies, and that translates to the communities we try and preserve and inspire along the way. Because let's face it, we're never going to get young people to be interested in all this anyway if they only get told like, oh, this story is only ever this way. I want you to do Shakespeare and it's only ever this way.
Right, yeah.
No.
Says the, cis white European male in the room. But it's like, I was bored with Shakespeare. God, I was bored with Shakespeare and Actors Conservatory. But it's that same thing. It's just like, it has to be done this way. And it has to be this important period piece where, everyone's wearing pantaloons. And I just, if I can do one thing in the theater community in Houston, let's just shake things up just a little bit.
Yeah.
I was the black sheep of the theater community in Austin.
Always the funny thing.
The fun people are.
And by
It just
God,
seems
I
like
want
it.
to keep that label here in Houston too.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the stupid, ridiculous things that I think are fun and interesting. And usually I get an audience for them. Thank you very much. But, some of the more highbrow theater companies will look at me and like,
Clutch your pearls and be like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
It's like, yeah, if you're going to be an artist, take risks.
So, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm just, you know, I don't know why this came about me all of a sudden, but
Well, I mean,
I agree. I mean, I think that minority communities need that voice. They need to preserve their stories, because without that, people that look like me are going to control the world forever, and that's not fair.
Right.
Not fair. It's fair to have like a multitude of perspectives. It's fair to have you, me, you, all of us in on the thing.
Right.
You know, that's fair to include everyone. It's not fair to exclude a lot of people for the sake of a few.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the ideology of public access that we try to promote.
Yeah, and those are very important points we covered tonight: accessibility, inclusion, diversity,
Right.
representation, history, archiving. All important things. Horror. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because what it all boils down to is that what we're doing today is no different than what they were doing how many thousands of years ago in front of a fire?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
And
it's a narrative.
as we talk about diversity too, I'm going to throw it out there because it's one of my great influences, Todd Browning's Freaks.
Oh, God, yes.
Huge.
My favorite too.
So controversial even still today. But I will say this, it's the same principle of like Hattie McDaniels winning the Oscar and everything for playing a maid. It's like, yes, the roles weren't ideal. The stories weren't always flattering, but it was a face on screen. It was a different person who got to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, pay your artists. It's like all these diverse communities need funding due. So it's like, yeah. And I'm proud to say that horror is one of the staple genres that promotes a lot of like disability diversity too, because most of your jobs that you can get is playing a monster in someone's group.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where sometimes talent can even find a boon for whatever their particular body or mind type is anyway, because it fits into the role you're playing. So it's like
That's
you
right.
actually get to be celebrated for who you are rather than, you know, be like, oh, you're not the tech.
Yeah.
And you have the sense of belonging too when you're watching. It's like, oh, I identify with that character, or I identify with that monster, whatever the case might be. It's like, I don't feel like an outsider anymore.
Yeah. I've
So-
identified more with monsters than my life.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we all have to a certain degree. I mean, it's like, yeah, you know, these are things that really matter. And this is how art really inspires change in a lot of people.
And, you know, 9 times out of 10, why are they the monster? Because they're misunderstood.
Understood, right?
And
Right. That's one thing they teach actors is like, there's never a villain or an antagonist, or just misunderstood.
Right.
I love Alan Rickman's bit about that. I don't play villains, I play very complex people.
Yeah.
And taking another, you know, I can't remember who said this, but it was a horror host somewhere. I think it was, I don't know. But, you know, they're no bad films. They're just misunderstood.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Like,
So
There's
I
also
think
bad films.
that, yeah, a little bit of both.
too.
But I just wanted to thank our guests for tonight, Gian Cardenas and John Faust, and also our illustrious tech production manager, production person of many hats, Mel Petersen,
And Alexa.
and Alexa, who had to take off, had another engagement, but we wanted to thank Alexa Perez as well for sharing her background and knowledge with all of us. And I also want to say special thanks to Oscar Guardiola Designs for this beautiful shirt that I'm wearing that was given to me on my birthday on August 22nd. So shout out to you too. And also those of you that want to be involved, just make sure to write either Mel or myself. You can find our emails at hmstv.org. For those of you that want to be part of HMS Unfiltered, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. John Ben beautiful.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Please.
We're never inviting John Faust back ever
Something
again.
like it was recorded?
Yeah.